Welcome everyone to another episode of the NYC Godcast. Grateful to have you along. Just here with Rachel today. We're down.
Just Rachel.
Just
Thank
Rachel.
you. That makes me feel so nice.
Rachel.
Still just.
I know. I was trying not to say it, then it's starting to come out. We are missing our minion today, but she'll be back. Don't worry. Someday. I feel like we're just gonna hear her.
Yeah.
Like whether she's here or she's just gonna.
We're gonna both just pause and like, what?
Yeah. We'll just let her fill it, and then we could maybe we could do ventriloquist. You look over there and I'll be like,
we've tried this before.
Yeah, didn't go well.
Remember when I was your dummy?
I remember that.
No, I'm not talking about our childhood.
Well, anyway, so today is our final episode of the November series, God-Given Gratitude. It's been a fun series. I've enjoyed it. I think that, a lot of times we come to Thanksgiving and come to November and you expect that, but I feel like this year it's been somewhat of a challenging, not so gentle gratitude kind of thing, but this week, I'm hoping to challenge us a bit because obviously Turkey Day has come and gone. It is now behind us.
The parade is over.
The parade is over. Macy's isn't closed here. I guess they're open somewhere where they would have a parade. But Macy's parade is done. The turkey's done. Now the fridge is full of leftovers. Your fat pants have been stretched. November is pretty much over with. So it's all behind us. And so, a lot of times we come to this month and we come to this holiday and we're so focused on being thankful, being grateful. And so then December comes along and we have a tendency to kind of let that thankfulness just evade us. We kind of let that thankfulness leave us quicker than the rotten pumpkin sitting on your porch. Mm-hmm. It's just like one of those.
We let that sit way too long.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So in typical NYC fashion, what I'd like to challenge us with today is this. I'd like to challenge us to actually stop giving thanks.
You would.
I would, and I will. I'd like to challenge us to stop giving thanks. So what if we made up our minds that no longer, never, ever again will we give thanks? Now, some of you are way too excited about that, though. Some of you are like, yes, I've always done that. And
I've been practicing my whole life.
I've been waiting for this moment. But what if we decided right here and right now, today, never, ever again will we give thanks, but instead, what if we began living thanks? What if every single day we lived with as much gratitude as we do in the month of November, as we do on Thanksgiving? What if nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, could happen to make you ungrateful, to make you murmur, to make you complain? What if even the unfortunate circumstances and the unfortunate situations and the pain and the problems actually caused you to be more thankful than you were before? Some of you are like, that's totally far-fetched. It's not possible to live that way. No one does that. I'd like to show us a verse that Jesus says in the book of Luke. And I hope this verse really just speaks to us. Jesus made this statement in Luke 6:45. He says, "A good man out of the good treasures of his heart bringeth forth that which is good, and an evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart brings forth that which is evil. For of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks." So in other words, Jesus is saying, when you speak, it's a regurgitation. This is where we need Jamie.
No, she'd have something to say about that.
Often when she speaks, I see regurgitation. But anyways, when we speak, what Jesus is saying is it's a regurgitation of what's on the inside. Mm-hmm. What's coming out here is not something new. What's coming out here is a result of what's in here. Right. And so most all people I know, even Christians, we consider it totally acceptable to complain. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think most all people complain, but even Christians, we think we're allowed to complain. Mm-hmm. We think it's acceptable. We think it's normal. We think everyone complains. Right. We're willing to do it in the church, in the middle of service. We're totally open to complaining. If it's too warm, if it's too cold, if it's snowing, if it's raining, if traffic's backed up, if there's a hair in your food, and there is always a hair in my food. We don't even think twice about it. By default, naturally, we are locked and loaded and ready to complain.
Yep, I agree. For sure. We normally just get around the table and all complain together.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And that's a lot of how it spreads like something that spreads.
Wildfire.
Good one. It spreads like wildfire. Like one person will complain, they're like, oh yeah, well this, and then they'll start complaining. I mean, try it. Well, don't try it. That defeats the whole purpose of this podcast. But you know what that's like. If you're in a group, right? Complaining spreads. It just comes naturally. It just comes spewing out of your mouth. And yet, ask yourself this. So Jesus says, good heart, good things. Bad heart, evil heart, bad things. So ask yourself this. Is complaining a good or an evil thing? Ouch. That's no fun. Let's go back to talking about invisible. Whatever we talked about. Was it invisible last time?
Was that really only a month ago?
I don't know.
No, we
Maybe
talked
there's
about fear.
Oh, fear.
Fear, yeah.
Okay, good. We're losing months here, folks. But ask yourself, is complaining, is murmuring a good thing or an evil thing? Does murmuring come from above or from below? Did Jesus ever, even one time complain?
I think we fool ourselves, right? Like, I'm a good person. I do good things. I stack chairs. You know, like I do the servancy things and like all that stuff. But then we sit around and we complain all the time. So like we more probably than yourself, we all know what comes from your heart. If your heart's of evil or not. Because if you're the one that we know is going to complain all the time, whether you do good things, we see what's in your heart.
Absolutely. And I would say, like, as I look around the church and as I look at most Christians, like that literally is what's on the inside. Because I hear more complaining than praise. Like I hear more bad than good almost by every Christian I know. And so that does tell us there's a heart problem. That's what Jesus is saying here. Yeah. Whatever is coming out of your mouth is a result of what's in your heart. And if complaining is not a good thing, if complaining and murmuring is evil, what kind of heart do we have?
Yeah. Like, and others are going to know it.
Yeah.
Like I think if anything else, like I said, we convince ourselves we're good. But if you ask, like, if you're like, I don't know, do I complain? Do I have an evil heart or good heart? Just go ask someone.
Yes.
Yeah, like
the answer is yes.
Everyone else can see it, whether you see yourself or not.
So this is the question then. If we are Christians, if we are people defined by having Jesus on the inside, and yet what is coming out of our mouth demonstrates that which is not of Jesus, that which is evil, that which is not good, that which Jesus would never do, we got a problem. Mm-hmm. Did you catch that? So we're, as Christians, what is a Christian? A Christian is a person who has Jesus on the inside. Mm-hmm. Jesus never complained. Right. Murmuring and complaining does not come from Jesus. Mm-hmm. And so what's coming out of your mouth is showing that something other than Jesus is on the inside of your heart. Is that what Jesus is saying here? Like, and so this is what I desire for us to grasp today. Like, that was depressing. That was really sad. I'm not complaining, but this is what I want us to grasp today. What if it didn't have to be? What if it didn't have to be? What if, just like you naturally complain, just like you instantly start murmuring, what if thankfulness became your default in life? Mm-hmm. Like, that thought has really perplexed me this month. What if you just smile. I'm always ready to complain. I'm always ready to murmur, to put down, to like just see the negative, right? I'm always ready for that. I don't even think twice about it. Like, I don't even have to know what's going on to just start complaining about something. But what if that default, that natural instinct were flipped? What if that was thankfulness, that I'm always ready? I'm always ready to find the good. I'm always ready to find thankfulness and gratitude. Is that as contagious too as I would think? You know, like the opposite? Yeah. Because have you ever been at one of those tables like you're at the restaurant? And you have that one person. And there's that one person that is not going to join in, right? They're not going to complain, but they're going to don't smile. They're not going to complain. They're going to give thanks, and you're like, they all get the glare from the whole table. Yeah. But just like that, it does. Everyone's like ashamed. Yeah, it rains on that parade, the party booba parade. And so, what if it did catch fire? Like, what if they're like, you know what? Not all the turkey's burnt. You know what? Their whole head of hair is not in my cornbread, right? Just one. It could be much. Like, do you see what if thankfulness were our default? I really do think it would spread. I agree. I think it would be contagious. And so what if in every situation and in every circumstance, and totally regardless and irrelevant of what happens or takes place, what if we started from a place of thankfulness? Another place, Jesus made this comment that he came to give us a fountain flowing from our heart. So remember that. What if that fountain, like, if you think, like, we don't have many fountains around here, especially this time of year. But you think of, like, you've seen the fountains, right? I think of Friends. Like, you remember the intro of Friends? They have the fountain shooting out. What does a fountain produce? Water. It can't help it. Right. What if that were the function of gratitude within our heart? Like, what if our heart was so thankful, it couldn't help but spit thankfulness out because it was a fountain flowing? And so what if what came out of our mouths was thankfulness? Because thankfulness is what's on the inside. Most of us grasp the idea of giving thanks. We grasp onto Thanksgiving. We grasp onto this month of November. But making, from a kid growing up, we're making a list of I'm thankful for food and for roofs and clothes and toys. And most of us think that giving thanks in all things means finding the bare minimum silver lining. And I think we talked about that in the first episode. Like, when we're told we're to be thankful in all things, Paul writes, be thankful in all things. We think that means find the silver lining. Not all the turkeys burnt, right? find the best in the bad situation. And yet, what if we stopped giving thanks and instead, what if we were being thankful? What if being thankful is literally who we were? Do we see the difference? One of the verses that I think we started this with the first episode of this month, is 1 Thessalonians 5:12, where Paul writes that in everything give thanks to the Lord because that's God's will for you. And ironically, the word give there, as in give thanks, it actually means to be. So you could say, Paul writes, in everything be thankful. Don't give thanks, but in everything be thankful. And that might seem like I'm splitting hairs between giving and being. But if you allow me this illustration, this is a rather lame illustration. I know I'm kind of known for lame illustrations, but to me, like this is one of those things I was like chewing on for 2 days. I'm like, what is the difference between giving and being? So this is what I came up with.
Oh boy.
Are you ready for this?
I don't know.
This is what I came up with. What is the difference between giving thanks and being thankful? Do you know if you were out in the middle of the highway?
I try not to
Fine,
be.
you can be on the sidewalk. Is that fair?
Okay, that's
okay. And you call me and you're like, I'm here downtown and I need a ride. I could come give you a lift. I could come pick her up in the car. I could give her a ride. Yet, if I am a taxi driver, giving you a ride is literally who I am. It's literally what I do. It's what defines me. Do you see the difference? Mm-hmm. If I offer you a ride, I have the right to say I will, or I have the right to say I won't. I might see you on the street and think that you're not worthy of my car, or that you smell funny, or that your feet are too big. I have the prerogative, I have the right to refuse to give you a ride when I'm only giving you a lift. But if I stop giving lifts and I start being a lift giver, I'm all of a sudden bound to what I am. I suddenly find pleasure and joy and fulfillment. I actually get paid as a taxi driver to do my purpose, which is to give lifts all day long, because I'm going from giving to being. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Was that totally lame? Great.
I've heard worse.
Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that. And this is the way that most Christians work, right? We give thanks, and in doing so, we reserve the right to, at times, not give thanks. We reserve the right to complain, to murmur, to be ungrateful. We consider it completely acceptable to complain when we don't like something without even thinking twice about it. And the reason is that we're beginning from the start in a place of ungratitude. We're starting in a place that's unthankful for God and his goodness. We lack a trust in what he's working, the bad or the good. And yet, if we would stop giving thanks, if we would start being a person who by default lives thankfully, all of a sudden, we would be unable to complain because of what's on the inside. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, that fountain can't help because it's thankful in here. It can't help but be thankful here. And all of a sudden, by living a life that is defined by being thankful, we recognize God's goodness in all things. We're able to rejoice evermore. We're able to be thankful. This is you've heard this before, but this is a second lame illustration. Two for one. Happy Thanksgiving, folks. Yeah. Technically, I stole this. So you'll think this one's not lame because I didn't come up with it.
We'll see.
So you've heard this before.
Oh, I already see that. Yes, I.
But one of my mentors, one of the people that I enjoy listening to, gives this illustration for joy. Mm-hmm. But to me, this works perfectly for thankfulness. I should have brought.
Yeah, you should have brought it. Yeah.
I don't eat those.
I could hold it and do it for you. Do the illustration.
Do you buy those? They're so good. They're like, what do they eat and buy? So have you ever had a bowl of Cheerios? My grandma, I remember growing up, she always had Cheerios every single morning in a Cool Whip bowl. That's what she ate out of. That was her cereal bowl. It was Cool Whip.
You talking about Grandma Mabel?
No, Daddy. Well, either.
Grandma Mabel put it in the fridge the night before that. Yeah, the next disgusting. Day it was soggy.
Yeah. So they would eat Cheerios every morning, right? You get the Cheerios, you pour the milk in there. And like if you get down to the last 3 or 4 Cheerios in the bowl, what happens if you take your spoon and you try to push down a Cheerio?
Am I supposed to answer that?
Oh, yes.
Correctly.
There's a
is the answer out there? Oh,
well, what happens?
It won't go down. It is boop.
The boop. That's what I was looking for. Okay, boop. Bloop, I think is correctly
bloop. I'm
pronunciation.
So sorry.
Yes.
I just listened to it too this week.
Yes. We're totally stealing this. So no matter how hard you try, no matter how many attempts you make, you can push those Cheerios down, but by default, without any effort or any thinking, that Cheerio goes bloop.
Yours wasn't as good as mine.
I thought it was pretty great.
I don't think so.
It goes bloop. Better?
I guess.
Okay. And it comes back up no matter how hard you push it down. And the reason, do you know why a Cheerio does that? Don't look at the screen. Why does a Cheerio do that?
It float.
Right. Why would it float?
Because they're floating.
I'm a human because I'm humaning.
Am
You're
I
not
wrong?
The reason a Cheerio floats when you try to push it down in the milk is because it's not straining. It's not thinking about it. It's not thinking to itself, float, you dumb cereal. That's not what Cheerios are doing. It floats because there's something inside that Cheerio. What? There's air.
Air makes it float.
Okay, air makes it float. There is air inside of that Cheerio, and it cannot help but bloop, bloop.
No, that's creepy. Don't do that one.
Bloop.
I am uncomfortable now.
Oh, here's the regurgitation of the mouth thing, you know. But that back to the Cheerio. A Cheerio can be pushed down, but it cannot help but get back up because there's something on the inside that makes it float. That is air. What's on the inside cannot help but be demonstrated on the outside. And so, by default, a Cheerio lives a life of being grateful. What if we lived that way? What if no matter what came in your life, what if whenever the spoon of life tries to push you down, when the circumstances and situations are less than ideal, what if by default something on the inside of you became expressed outwardly? What if instead of giving thanks and making yourself float by your exertion and your effort and your exhaustion, what if instead you lived a life of thankfulness? What if on the inside you had thankfulness? Where what's on the inside, true devotion and true worship to God, who is good, became automatically, without thinking, expressed on the outside? What if we went from giving thanks to being thankful? Well, I have a treat for us. So we've not done this in quite some time, but I was getting this podcast ready, and this came to mind, and see if you remember this. So we haven't had a memorable moment for quite some time. Those kind of just fell by the wayside.
Didn't know that was a thing.
Long ago, we did those. So it's no secret that a lot of times when people are at camp, they complain.
What?
I don't know if you knew that.
I've never.
You complain.
A bit.
It's not unusual to hear complaining. You know, Christians or parents or kids or pastors or youth leaders, we all do it. We all complain. There's always something to about, right? There's a lot of complaining that goes on at camp. And sometimes, to be completely honest, it can be a bit overbearing. Would you agree?
Yes, this year me and Jamie had to hear a lot more of it than normal because the little name tag thing that you pulled. Yeah, we don't appreciate
Name tag
that.
thing that you pulled.
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
yeah.
Well, are you complaining?
No,
I think
it's
you're
not,
complaining.
it's
I think
not
you're complaining.
complaining. Don't hit
Well,
me hard.
One year, we were preparing for the Amazing Race. It may have been the first year. I can't quite remember. But we were preparing for the Amazing Race. And one of the challenges was, like, the team had, and maybe you remember better than I do, the team had to, like, memorize a Bible verse or recite a Bible verse, something to do with a Bible verse. I don't quite remember. And so the girls came to me and they're like, what verse are we going to use for this? And so I thought about it, and I thought, this would be funny. This would be a little ironic. Let's use Numbers 11:1. And because every team is going to have to say this and recite this and memorize this over and over. And if you pay attention to what you're actually reading, the irony speaks for itself. So let me read you Numbers 11:1. This is what we had the teams do on the Amazing Race. Numbers 11:1 says this: and when the people complained, it displeased the Lord. And the Lord heard it, and his anger was kindled, and the fire of the Lord burnt among them and consumed them that were in the camp. I thought it was hilarious. I never heard any comments that day, but to me, that was pure gold. She just nods her. She's like, this is what we deal with. Come on, people. That's pretty great. Anyways, that's my memorable moment. Today's considerable quote comes from Spurgeon. He says this: I think it's a better thing than Thanksgiving. We should be thanks living. Spurgeon has a little bit of Josh in him. Or maybe Josh has a little bit of Spurgeon in him. I mean, does that not sound like something I would say? That sounds like something I would say. In fact, the beginning of this lesson was originally titled Thanks Living before I found that quote.
That is ironic.
It is ironic. So today's featured content, instead of a song like we usually do, I meant to bring it with me and I didn't. I'd like to feature a book, which we've never done before.
I didn't know you could do that.
And it's a free book.
Oh, even better.
Even better. You won't read it.
I'm working on that.
So I'd like to feature a book today for our featured content. This book was given to me this past year, and it's been really challenging and refreshing. Ironically, I found it once we started this series on Thanksgiving, and so it was just like perfect timing. but it's called Always and in Everything, and it's by Gabriel Cleator. And this isn't a book you can find from Amazon. It's actually not in the bookstores. In fact, Gabriel gave me my copy personally. But I wanted to feature this book because I promise you it will challenge you, and I promise you it will encourage you too on this thought of being thankful and really just thanking the Lord in all things. And so the best part of the book, as we already said, is it is free of charge. You can't find, and it's not like your cheap little like daily bread books. It's a normal softback book, really great, really well done. And so head on over to the description of this podcast. We'll have a link there where you can go pick up the book for free. And so make sure to do that. I promise you won't regret it. Well, we survived without Jamie. I don't know how well we survived, but we survived. Any last thoughts?
No.
I thought as much. Well, friends, don't forget next week, we have a very exciting surprise. I guess that's not a surprise if they know about it. Yeah. That would be exactly the opposite of a surprise. Yeah. Next Sunday, December 5th at 3 p.m., we will be doing a live episode of the NYC Godcast. It's going to be like a year-end review for the NYC, going over the camp and going over the podcast, going over just the different things, maybe give away a few secrets for what's coming next year. And then we're also hoping to have maybe some guest people coming in and just chatting with us. And so make sure to tune in on YouTube and Facebook as we go live Sunday, December 5th at 3 p.m. here on the NYC Godcast. Well, friends, thanks so much for joining us. Until next time,
Bye.
We'll see ya.